A galactic crisis. In the farthest reaches of the galaxy, the civilization of Zorgans had long lived in fear of the ferocious predator known as the Groleth. These massive, six-limbed beasts with razor-sharp claws and an insatiable hunger roamed the dense jungles of Zorgan Prime, decimating settlements and devouring any Zorgan unfortunate enough to cross their path. For generations, the Zorgans had attempted to eradicate the Groleths, but their advanced technology proved nearly useless against the beasts' savagery and cunning. The Groleths seemed to adapt to every weapon, every trap the Zorgans employed. Slowly but surely, the Zorgan population dwindled as more and more of their once great cities were reduced to ruins by the marauding creatures. Desperate for a solution, and on the brink of extinction, the Zorgans turned their eyes to the stars. They had long observed the burgeoning human civilization from afar, marveling at their rapid advancement and tenacity in the face of adversity. In humans, the Zorgans saw a glimmer of hope, a species that might have the ingenuity and courage to help them in their darkest hour. With trepidation, the Zorgan High Council sent a message across the expanse, a plea for aid to the humans. They waited with bated breath, wondering if these strange, bipedal creatures would be their salvation, or simply ignore their desperate cries. Finally, after an agonizing wait, a response came. The humans were on their way. Humanity takes the stage. Captain Lena Sorrows stood on the bridge of the UES Dauntless, watching the vibrant green planet of Zorgan Prime grow larger in the view screen. She and her team of explorers, scientists, and diplomats had been dispatched to answer the Zorgans' call for help, a mission that filled Lena with both excitement and apprehension. As the Dauntless entered orbit and began its descent, Lena couldn't help but marvel at the planet's lush jungles and sprawling cities. However, as they drew closer, the scars of the Groleth attacks became all too evident. Entire swathes of the cities lay in ruins, with shattered buildings and debris littering the once bustling streets. Upon landing, Lena and her team were greeted by a delegation of haggard-looking Zorgans. Their usually vibrant purple skin was pale and mottled, their eyes haunted by the horrors they had witnessed. The Zorgan High Counselor, a tall, regal-looking individual named Zorax, stepped forward to welcome the humans. "Captain Sorrows," Zorax said, his voice trembling slightly, "we cannot express our gratitude enough for your willingness to aid us in our time of need. The Groleths have pushed us to the brink of extinction. We fear that without your help, our once proud civilization will be lost forever." Lena nodded solemnly, taking in the devastation around her. She could scarcely imagine the terror the Zorgans must have lived with for so long. "High Counselor Zorax," she said, her voice filled with determination, "we will do everything in our power to help you overcome this threat. You have my word." And with that, Lena and her team set to work, determined to unravel the mystery of the Groleths and find a way to save the Zorgans from their terrorizing grasp. Into the Groleth's den. The dense jungles of Zorgan Prime were unlike anything Lena had ever seen. Towering trees with fluorescent leaves formed a canopy so thick that barely any sunlight penetrated to the forest floor. Strange, chittering creatures flitted through the undergrowth, their cries echoing in the humid air. But Lena and her team were not here to admire the planet's beauty. They had a mission: to study the Groleths in their natural habitat and find a way to stop their relentless attacks on the Zorgan settlements. For days, they trekked through the jungle, setting up concealed cameras and sensors to monitor Groleth activity. They observed the beasts from afar, marveling at their raw power and agility. The Groleths moved through the dense foliage with ease, their 6 muscular limbs propelling them forward at breakneck speeds. As they studied the creatures, Lena began to notice a pattern in their behavior. The Groleths seemed to target Zorgan settlements primarily in search of food, specifically a rare fruit that grew near the Zorgan farms. The Zorgans' attempts to defend their crops only served to agitate the Groleths further. One fateful day, as Lena and her team were returning to their base camp, they found themselves face to face with a massive Groleth. The beast reared up on its hind legs, its razor-sharp claws glinting in the dappled sunlight. Lena's hand instinctively went to her pulse rifle, but something in the creature's eyes made her pause. The Grolath wasn't attacking. It was watching them warily, its muscular body tense and ready to spring. In that moment, Lena realized that the Grolaths were not mindless killing machines. They were scared and felt threatened in their own territory. Slowly, Lena lowered her weapon and took a step forward. The Grolath growled low in its throat but didn't advance. Lena spoke softly, her voice calm and reassuring. To her amazement, the Grolath seemed to relax slightly, its claws retracting. And in that moment, a daring plan began to form in Lena's mind, a plan that could change everything. A daring plan. You want to, boo aka. Zorax's voice echoed through the council chambers. His purple face turned a shade paler. Lena stood before the Zorgan High Council, her team arrayed behind her. She had just proposed her audacious plan, to capture a live Grolath and attempt to tame it. High Counselor, Lena said calmly, unfazed by Zorax's outburst. Our studies have shown that the Grolaths are not inherently aggressive. They attack your settlements primarily in search of food. If we can understand them better, find a way to communicate with them, we might be able to coexist peacefully. The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of protests and disbelief. The idea of trying to tame a Grolath was unthinkable to the Zorgans, who had only ever seen the beasts as an unstoppable force of destruction. But Lena stood firm in her conviction. She argued passionately, laying out the evidence her team had gathered, the potential benefits of a peaceful resolution. Gradually, the protests died down as the council members began to consider her words. Captain Sorrows, Zorax said finally, his voice heavy with trepidation. While we have grave reservations about this plan, we are out of options. You have our permission to proceed, but know that you do so at great risk to yourself and your team. Lena nodded, a determined glint in her eye. Understood, High Counselor. We will not let you down. With the council's blessing, Lena and her team set about preparing for their most daring mission yet. They constructed a large reinforced enclosure on the outskirts of the main Zorgan city, equipping it with state-of-the-art security systems and monitoring devices. Then, armed with tranquilizer guns and a lot of courage, they ventured back into the jungle. It took days of tracking and waiting, but finally they managed to isolate a young Grolath from its pack. In a heart-pounding operation, Lena and her team managed to subdue the creature and transport it back to the enclosure. As the Grolath lay sleeping off the effects of the tranquilizer, Lena couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension for the challenges ahead. The real work was about to begin. The taming of the beast. Lena stood before the massive enclosure, watching the young Grolath pace back and forth behind the reinforced glass. The creature had been in captivity for a week now, and Lena had taken on the responsibility of taming it personally. She had named the Grolath Ripper, a nod to the beast's fearsome reputation. But as Lena spent more time observing Ripper, she began to see glimmers of intelligence and even curiosity in the creature's eyes. Every day, Lena would enter the enclosure, armed with nothing but a bag of the Grolath's favorite fruits and an unwavering determination. At first, Ripper would snarl and lash out, clearly frightened and agitated by Lena's presence. But Lena didn't back down. Slowly, patiently, she began to gain Ripper's trust. She would sit for hours in the enclosure, talking softly to the Grolath, offering it treats from a safe distance. Gradually, Ripper's hostility began to fade, replaced by a cautious curiosity. Weeks turned into months, and Lena's dedication began to pay off. Ripper started to respond to simple commands, allowing Lena to approach and even touch its scaly hide. The Zorgan scientists and council members watched in awe as the once terrifying beast began to display genuine affection towards Lena. One momentous day, as Lena was going through a training routine with Ripper, the Grolath did something extraordinary. Instead of simply following Lena's commands, Ripper nuzzled against her hand, a deep, contented purr rumbling in its throat. Tears of joy and amazement streamed down Lena's face as she realized the magnitude of what had just happened. She had done more than just tame a Groleth. She had formed a bond of trust and understanding with a creature once thought to be nothing more than a mindless killing machine. And as word of Lena's success spread, a glimmer of hope began to grow among the Zorgans. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way to end the cycle of fear and violence that had plagued their world for so long. Turning the tide. With Ripper's taming a resounding success, Lena and her team set about implementing the next phase of their plan. They worked with the Zorgans to capture more Groleths, bringing them to specially constructed sanctuaries where they could be tamed and studied. At first, many Zorgans were hesitant to interact with the creatures that had haunted their nightmares for so long. But as they witnessed the profound changes in the tamed Groleths, their fear gradually gave way to curiosity and even wonder. Under Lena's guidance, a program was established to pair Zorgans with Groleths, teaching them how to communicate and coexist peacefully. Slowly but surely, the once terrifying beasts became integrated into Zorgan society, serving as loyal companions and even aiding in the rebuilding efforts. As more and more Groleths were tamed, the attacks on Zorgan settlements dwindled and then stopped altogether. For the first time in generations, the Zorgans knew true peace. Lena watched with pride as the Zorgan cities began to thrive once more, the scars of the past healing with each passing day. She knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There were still many Groleths in the wild, and the process of taming them would take time. But she also knew that the Zorgans would never have to face this challenge alone. Humanity had proven itself a true friend and ally, and the bonds forged between their two species would only grow stronger in the years to come. As Lena looked out over the vibrant, bustling streets of the Zorgan capital, Ripper by her side, she knew that she had been a part of something truly extraordinary, a testament to the power of understanding, compassion, and the unbreakable spirit of two species united in the face of adversity. A new era. The Zorgan High Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from both Zorgan and human civilizations gathered for a momentous occasion. Lena stood at the podium, Ripper sitting calmly by her side as she addressed the crowd. Today, she began, her voice filled with emotion. We celebrate not just the end of a crisis, but the beginning of a new era. An era of peace, cooperation, and understanding between our two species. The crowd erupted into applause, Zorgan and human voices joining together in a joyous chorus. Zorak stepped forward, his eyes shining with gratitude as he placed a ceremonial medallion around Lena's neck. "Captain Lena Soros," he said, his voice ringing out clear and strong. "On behalf of the Zorgan people, I extend our deepest thanks and eternal friendship. You and your team have not only saved us from the brink of extinction, but have taught us an invaluable lesson in empathy and understanding. We are forever in your debt." Lena accepted the honor with a humble bow, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. She knew that this was only the beginning. There was still so much work to be done, so many wonders waiting to be discovered in the vast reaches of the cosmos. As the ceremony concluded and the celebrations began, Lena found a quiet moment to reflect on the incredible journey that had brought her to this point. She thought of the challenges she and her team had faced, the bonds they had forged, and the lives they had changed. She looked out over the sea of faces, Zorgan and human alike, united in their joy and hope for the future. And she knew, with unshakable certainty, that whatever trials lay ahead, they would face them together. Two species, one dream, reaching for the stars as one. Lena felt Ripper nudge her hand, a gentle reminder of the incredible bond they shared. She smiled, scratching the Groleth behind its ears as she whispered a silent promise. "We did it, Ripper. We changed the world. And now, we're going to change the galaxy." And with that, Captain Lena Soros, her loyal Groleth by her side, strode forward into a future filled with infinite possibilities, ready to take on any challenge the universe could throw their way. For this was the power of humanity, the power to dream, to hope, to reach out across the stars and touch the very face of the unknown. And with allies like the Zorgans by their side, there was nothing they couldn't achieve. A new era had dawned, an era of exploration, discovery, and unity. And Linda couldn't wait to see where it would take them next.